got broke like 3 years ago.
You're listening to Supreme Court lifts limits on immigration raids in the Los Angeles area. A news story written by Justin Juvenal and read by an AI-generated voice. A divided Supreme Court on Monday lifted a ruling by a lower court judge who placed limits on immigration raids in the Los Angeles area after finding federal agents were indiscriminately targeting people based on race and other factors. The justices sided with the Trump administration, which argued that a temporary restraining order issued by a federal judge in California was hampering its ability to crack down on illegal migration, and that the stops by authorities were not unlawful. The majority did not offer a rationale for the decision, which is common in cases decided on the Supreme Court's emergency docket. Justice Brett M. Kavanaugh wrote in a concurring opinion that illegal immigration is a major issue in the Los Angeles area. He opined that race can be considered, along with other factors informing reasonable suspicion, to stop someone for an immigration check, such as where people are gathering and what jobs they are working. To be clear, apparent ethnicity alone cannot furnish reasonable suspicion. Under this court's case law regarding immigration stops, however, it can be a relevant factor when considered along with other salient factors. Kavanaugh wrote, "The court's 3 liberal justices sharply dissented. We should not have to live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work a low-wage job." Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in the dissent, "Rather than stand idly by while our constitutional freedoms are lost, I dissent." The raid sparked major protests in Southern California, some featuring clashes between demonstrators and police. President Donald Trump deployed roughly 5,000 National Guard troops and Marines in response. California Governor Gavin Newsom, Democrat, and local officials objected and sued to stop the deployment. Most of the troops have since been sent home. The raids began in early June as part of what Trump officials described as the largest mass deportation operation in history. The administration set a goal of detaining more than 3,000 undocumented immigrants each day across the country. Agents targeted bus stops, parks, schools, and businesses such as Home Depot and 7-Eleven. 3 people who were detained in the raids sued seeking their release. The case was later certified as a class action and was joined by a union, advocates for immigrants, and others who had been stopped. The plaintiffs alleged federal immigration officers have adopted a policy and practice of conducting immigration operations in violation of their obligation to stop individuals in public only if there is reasonable suspicion. The Fourth Amendment requires authorities to have specific evidence a person is in the country illegally to make such a stop. But the plaintiffs asserted immigration and customs enforcement agents were profiling targets based on their race or ethnicity, whether they spoke Spanish or accented English, where they were located, or what job they were performing. Numerous U.S. citizens and others who are lawfully present in this country have been subjected to significant intrusions on their liberty. The plaintiffs wrote in a filing with the Supreme Court. Many have been physically injured. At least 2 were taken to a holding facility. The plaintiffs' filings with the Supreme Court highlight several cases of Latino U.S. citizens being detained in raids at a tow yard, a bus stop, and a car wash, as proof of the indiscriminate nature of the stops. Some were stopped multiple times. In July, the plaintiffs asked a federal judge to issue a temporary restraining order, requiring the federal government to have established reasonable suspicion before conducting an immigration-related stop. U.S. District Judge Maame Ewusi-Mensah Frimpong, a Biden appointee, found there was a mountain of evidence that authorities were conducting unlawful stops targeting low-wage workers at public locations, at least in part based on their apparent ethnicity. Frimpong enjoined the government from conducting raids based on 4 factors alone or in combination: race, speaking Spanish or accented English, presence in certain locations, and occupation. The decision was later upheld by an appeals court. Trump officials appealed that ruling to the Supreme Court, saying the Los Angeles area was a key enforcement priority in the administration's crackdown on illegal migration because it was home to an estimated 2 million undocumented people, mostly from Mexico and Central America. Trump officials said they should be able to use the factors prohibited by Frimpong in forming an overall assessment of reasonable suspicion. They said it is well established that some types of employers seek to hire undocumented immigrants in certain locations, and that migrants often gravitate toward jobs that don't require papers, such as landscaping and construction. The district court's injunction now significantly interferes with federal enforcement efforts across a region that is larger and more populous than many countries, and that has become a major epicenter of the immigration crisis. Solicitor General D. John Sauer wrote in a filing with the High Court, "The raids put the Los Angeles area on edge. Mayor Karen Bass Democrat, has been a vocal critic of the stops as well as the deployment of troops by Trump, calling it an armed occupation. In July, she signed an executive order supporting immigrant communities in Los Angeles, and she is requesting records from federal agencies for raids she described as unlawful. About 250 National Guard troops remained in the city as of mid-August.